It's time for your Low Country Real Estate Market Update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. Thanks for joining me this morning on the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty, and if this is your first time tuning in, this is a program where over the next hour, we're going to talk about all things real estate here in the Low Country. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the real estate market, I am in the studio this morning. Feel free to give me a call, 843-556-1250. I'd love to answer any questions you might have or hear your opinion. Or if you're in the market right now, we'd love to hear a story or two about what you're facing as a buyer or a seller in this current market. So again, the number here, 843-556-1250. If you'd like to reach out to me personally, you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, I am one of the top agents here and would love the opportunity to earn your business. So best way to contact me is to go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. And on that site, you can take a look at all the listings I have, everything I've sold, read more about my experience and what I do on a day-to-day basis to help people buy and sell real estate. And if you're thinking about selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab, and you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee, which essentially states I'll sell your house in 59 days or less, or I'll sell it for half my commission. So listingsincharleston.com is the website to go to for that. And again, here in the studio, 843-556-1250 if you have a real estate question. So another very, very busy week in real estate here in Charleston. This is the time of year where realtors don't sleep if they know it's good for them, because this is when we get all of our business. This is when everybody's inquiring about real estate. It's when people are thinking about selling their house. It's when people are actively in the market. And so there's a lot of activity going on. And what I want to talk about first, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to talk about over the next hour. What I'm going to talk about first is just the perception that the public has about real estate agents, both positive and negative. And I'm going to tell you what agents are doing right now to try and earn your business, some of which is the right thing to do, some of which I do not agree with. And so I'm going to talk about that first. Later in the program, we're going to talk about just the market in general. For those of you that have listened to my program in the past, you know that I like to focus on statistics, numbers, give you some real data that you can sink your teeth into, so that you have an idea of what's going on in our market. And I'm going to break that down by county, by area. So stay tuned for that, because I'm going to give you specific information on pricing, inventory, days on market, so on and so forth for your specific area of the Charleston Tri-County market. A little bit later on, we're going to talk about how to make the most out of viewing a house in this market. If you're a buyer and you're starting your search, some things to avoid, some things to consider to make sure that you're making the most use out of your time. And then lastly, we're going to talk about budgeting for that new house purchase. I'm going to give you some tips, some things that I've learned along the way, some things that I've employed to help you with that process of buying. It doesn't matter if it's your first home or a second home, or you've purchased a dozen homes in the past. There are some tips that I can give you that I think might really help you out. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning. Again, feel free to give me a call in the studio, 843-556-1250. So let me talk first about the perception that people have about real estate agents, not just in this market, but in any market. And let's talk first with regard to the negative perception that a lot of people have about real estate agents. And I'll say this first. The public would not have these perceptions of real estate agents if they were not at least partially true. But I think that a lot of people think real estate agents, by and large, are lazy, slightly untruthful at times. I think a lot of people think we're all the same, that we all do the same exact thing, and that you could hire me or you could hire the guy down the street or the guy at a different office, and we're going to do the same thing for you. And so I want to kind of debunk that myth. I can tell you from personal experience, as someone that's done this for almost 10 years, that the majority of real estate agents are poor communicators. We rely a lot these days on email and text rather than just picking up the phone and having a conversation with somebody. I think people think real estate agents in this day and age are a little unimaginative. We just put your house on the MLS, especially in a seller's market, and put a sign in the yard and then wait for another agent to sell it. And there are plenty of agents out there that do that, but I want to talk about that in a little bit. And speaking of marketing, a lot of agents really just aren't doing marketing. They're putting it on the MLS. They're doing some things here and there. Maybe they're posting it on Facebook. They're using some form of social media, but they're not really going outside the box, and they're not doing extracurricular activities. I always struggle with saying that word, extracurricular activities to market homes for sale. They're just relying on the MLS and whatever tools their company are providing them with to market those homes for sale. And then, of course, I think the last thing, among other things that people perceive real estate agents to believe, is that all they care about is the commission. They just want to sell a house and then move on to the next one. And it's a very interesting notion, because if you look at the 2014 profile of home buyers and sellers, which is put out by the National Association of Realtors, this is really interesting. 88% of people say that they would use their same agent again. However, only 12% of those people actually use their same agent. So what does that say? Well, it says, number one, that as soon as that deal is done, the agent falls out of touch with them immediately. And that's why I think people think that real estate agents, all they care about is the commission. But as long as they communicate with their client base, then that's the whole point of selling real estate, rather than just finding the new lead or the new buyer, the new seller through marketing or so on and so forth. If real estate agents really are smart about how they run their business, or any person that runs their own business, they rely on referrals from the client base that they already have by delivering good customer service after the sale. And so what's important to a buyer or seller when they're interviewing an agent? I've gone on multiple appointments this week. I think on Friday, we did our 70th transaction so far this year. So things are very hot in our market. There's a lot of activity out there. And as I continue to sit down with both buyers and sellers and ask them what's important to them about the agent that they choose to hire to help them buy or sell a home, the answers really are the same for the most part. They want somebody that has a record of sales. They want to know how many homes you sold, where those homes were, how long it took them to sell, what was the difference between the listing price and sales price, so on and so forth, right? So they want to know that you've sold a lot of houses. They want to know that you have experience. How long have you been selling real estate? I want to make sure that the person that I hire knows what they're doing. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of new agents in our business that have the ability to help you with your transaction. But I think what most people are looking for are that experienced agent that has a high record of sales, so that as things come up in a transaction, they can guide you through that process based on their experience. Now, someone might go on the complete opposite end of the spectrum and say, I just want to work with somebody that I like. I want that person to make me feel good. I want that person to help me understand that they actually care about me, that they like me, and that I can trust them, really is, I think, the bottom line. They want somebody that they can trust. And I think that's incredibly important. And it doesn't matter if I have sold one home or 500 homes. If my clients don't trust me, I can't be an advisor to them, especially when things become difficult in a transaction, especially when the unexpected happens. And then something else that someone might choose an agent for, commission. There are plenty of real estate agents out there that will reduce their commission. There are plenty of companies out there that'll just charge you a flat fee, $500, and they'll put you on the MLS. But that is literally the only thing that they are going to do for you. It's just exposure on the MLS. They can't help you negotiate. They can't help you interpret a contract. All they're doing is providing you exposure to the MLS. And that's about $500. It varies a little bit here and there. But take it one step further, the reduced commission agent, yes, they're going to charge a lower commission, but that is all going to come out in terms of what they offer you as a realtor. Now, there are plenty of agents out there that will say, well, I'll do it for 5%, or I'll do it for 4.9%, or I'll do it for whatever the number is. But if you sit down and you actually look at what that agent is doing in terms of the services that they provide at that commission rate versus a full service agent at, say, 6%, that's going to do all of these other things, which matter, by the way, then it's up to you as the seller to determine what really is important to you. Something else that might be important is just flexibility in an agreement. I think what a lot of sellers especially are afraid of is hiring an agent that is going to create this great marketing pitch. They're going to sit down at your kitchen table. They're going to tell you everything that you want to hear. It sounds fantastic. It sounds like the perfect kind of agent that you're looking for. And then all of a sudden, you get the agreement signed and you don't hear from them again. Or they don't do what they say they're going to do. And so as a result of that, and as a result of the way that real estate agents have treated the public over the past several years, people are fearful of being locked into an agreement with an agent that may or may not do what they say they're going to do. So how do we as real estate agents cater to the needs of the general public? Well, I can tell you that in an effort to earn their business, there are plenty of real estate agents out there, especially right now when inventory is really hard to come by. We don't have a lot of listings available right in our market right now. So what are listing agents doing? They're telling people what they want to hear. They're sacrificing their own professionalism to maybe set a price on a house that they know is too high. And their mentality, of course, is, well, I'll just get them to sign the agreement. I'll show them that I work hard for them. And that at some point, once I've built a relationship, then I can really tell them what I think the house is worth, and we can reduce the price and sell it. And that's a very difficult thing for a seller to know. And it's frustrating for a seller to know. It's frustrating for an agent to know, quite frankly, because I pride myself on sitting down with somebody, telling them the truth, telling them what I think is going to happen, setting up realistic expectations, telling them everything I do to market my homes for sale, tell them the price that I think their house will sell for, and then I put then at that point the ball is in their court to make the decision as to what's important to them. So for me, I have had to walk away from, literally dozens of listings that I did not take because I couldn't help those people. I could not help them sell at that price. 3 separate times this week, I walked away from a potential listing because they wanted more than what I could sell the house for. And they're probably going to list with some other real estate agent. They're probably going to put their overpriced house on the market. And I always assess the level of motivation among sellers when I meet with them. And I got to tell you, we have this struggle right now where we don't have enough inventory for the buyers that are in our market. Yet we have all these sellers that want to sell, but they want to ask more than what the house is worth. So it's just this interesting anomaly where we need inventory. We need sellers to put their house on the market. Yet the sellers that are following the trends in the market, whether they're informed clients or not, they're looking at prices and they're saying, right, well, if that person's asking that much, then I can ask this much, so on and so forth. And if you have 2 or 3 overpriced listings in a neighborhood and people are going off of those prices, then you're just going to be another overpriced house in the market, in your neighborhood, in your area. And so it's difficult for sellers to comprehend sometimes that I can't help them sell their house for what they paid for it 6, 7, 8 years ago. And frankly, it doesn't matter how much you paid for it because it has no reflection on today's value of your house. I understand that it matters to you. I understand that if you paid X amount for your house in 2006, you're not going to take a loss on your house. Hey, that's all well and good. I totally respect and understand that. But this is what your house is worth today, and this is what I think we can sell it for. And so my advice for sellers that are out there right now that want to sell their house, make sure when you sit down with the agent that you interview, ask them how many homes they've sold. Have them bring a printout of the number of homes they've sold. It's amazing the amount of people that tell you how many homes they will sell, but when you ask them to prove it, it's like they disappear because you've caught their bluff. So make sure that you're getting data from these listing agents so that they're not embellishing themselves to just get your listing. So make sure that you're really interviewing these people, and make sure that when you sit down and you talk about price with those agents, that the price that they suggest is a supported price. Have them print out the comps, look at the pictures, look at the way the property appeared online, take into account things like condition, location, upgrades, so on and so forth, and come up with an educated price. If the price doesn't make sense, if we go through all of that and the price is 10% above what the most recent sale was, you should raise a red flag and you should say, well, tell me why that's the price I should choose. You should be able to snuff out the people that are trying to overprice your listing just for the sake of getting a listing. I've got a few more things that I want to talk about this, but when I come back, I'm going to hit the market updates because I know that a lot of people really like that information here on this program. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. Again, give me a call in the studio if you have any questions or comments, 556-1250. And don't forget to visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. We'll be right back.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. Thanks again for joining me this morning. If you're just tuning in, we were talking previously about what's important to people when they hire a real estate agent, and how does the public perceive us as realtors, and what do we need to do, what do we need to improve on to make sure that when we're hired by a buyer or a seller that we're living up to our expectations or exceeding those expectations. So I'd invite you to call into the program if you have any sort of question, comment, or concern about the real estate market. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have an experience that you think it's worth sharing, please call in. The number here is 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250. Now, if you want to reach out to me personally, you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, and you'd like some help from a top agent, please go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. And on that site, you can search the MLS, learn more about what I do to sell my homes, and the homes that I have sold, read some testimonials, so on and so forth. If you're thinking about selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab, and you can learn more about what I do to sell my homes, and you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee. Essentially, I will sell your house in less than 2 months, or I'll sell it for half my commission. So listingsincharleston.com is the website for that. So I'm going to get into one of the favorite things that I do here on this program, and that's just tell you what's going on in our market and give you some real numbers to sink your teeth into. And again, if you have specific questions about your area, your neighborhood, your house, you want to know what your house is worth, just go to listingsincharleston.com, send me a message, and I'll send you a report of what's happening in your neighborhoods, and I'm happy to give you a free opinion of value on your house. So let's start first with just inventory. We focus about that a lot on this program, the amount of homes available for sale to buyers. If we look at the inventory of homes available in the Tri-County market right now, we have a little under 5,500 homes available. This is as of March 31st. If we looked at that time last year in 2014, we had over 6,600 homes available for sale. So that's a decrease in inventory of almost 18%. All right. And when it comes to inventory, we use that, and then we basically take the total number of homes for sale and we divide that by the average number of closings on a monthly basis, and that provides us with months of inventory. Months of inventory is what we use, real estate agents, to measure the health of a real estate market, and it helps us determine whether we're in a buyer's market, a neutral market, or a seller's market. And so if you take the number of homes that we have available for sale right now, and you look at the amount of closings that we've had so far this year, at the end of March, we had almost 3,400 transactions closed. Now, to give you an idea of where we stack up compared to last year in March, we had 2,700 closings. So that's an increase in closings of 23%. So we have a decrease in inventory, an increase in closings. And if you look at everything under contract right now, ready to close, we have 4,600 homes that are in the pending status, or that have been in the pending status. Last year, it was only 3,400. So we've had a 35% increase in contracts written in 2015. These are all incredible numbers, because if you think about where we have been as a market over the past 2 years, 2013, 2014, both fantastic markets in terms of recovery and increases in price. Yet we still have these inventory issues, which takes me back to my point that I made just a little bit earlier, in that we need inventory. If you need to sell your house, you want to sell your house, contact me. I'm telling you right now, there are buyers out there for your house. Listingsincharleston.com is the website to go to for that. So we have this huge increase in closings, big increase in pending sales, decrease in inventory. On average, it's taking 73 days to sell a house in the Tri-County area. Last year, it was 84 days. The price hasn't moved much. We're up about 2%. That's across the board. I'm going to get into the specifics market by market here in just a second. And then if you're selling your house, Tri-County area, expect to receive about 95% of what you're asking. Again, these are averages. It all depends on the price that you set when you sell your house. I've sold homes for more than our listing price this year. I've sold homes for 10% less than what we've been asking. It all depends on the seller's motivation to sell and the strategy that we employ to help you sell your house. We can control, to an extent, the amount by which a buyer will pay for your house based on where we list your house for sale and the price that we ask. So that's what's going on just across the board. Let me break it down now into county, and then I'm going to break it down into area. And I'm going to try and get through this information quickly because there's a lot of it. So if you have specific questions, again, feel free to call into the studio, 556-1250, or contact me personally at listingsincharleston.com, and I'll give you a free report on your specific neighborhood relative to your house. So in Berkeley County, for single-family homes, so far we've closed 710 houses. That's a 30% increase from last year, and the median sales price is up 6%. If you're selling a condo or a townhouse, closings are up 26%, but there's been a drop in the median sales price. But you guys have to understand that the median sales price over 83 closings is not really something that you can hang your hat on. Prices have not gone down 26% if you're a condo or a townhouse in Berkeley County. If we look at the average sales price, it's down 7.5%. But again, I'd be willing to bet you that that number is being skewed by foreclosures or short sales, of which there are very little right now, but a lot of them are concentrated in Berkeley County. Again, if you want to know what's going on in your area, just send me an email or go to listingsincharleston.com. I'll tell you what's going on. If we look at Daniel Island for a second, closings this year, we've had 54. Last year, this time we had 40. We've got 76 listings available for sale. Last year we had 90. So decrease in inventory, increase in sales, increase in the asking price of the house, increase in average sales price. Average sales price is actually up 17%, but again, that's only over 50 sales. Tough to hang your hat on that information. But again, reach out to me. I'll tell you what's going on in your neck of the woods. Hanahan, we've had 94 new listings. Last year we had 101 at this point in time. But get this, we've had 86 closings in Hanahan so far this year. Last year we only had 47. So closings have almost doubled in Hanahan for single-family homes. Very interesting stuff. Goose Creek and Moncks Corner, we've had 807 new listings hit the market. This time in 2014, we had 637. I think a lot of that has to do with new construction. But we've had 450 closings so far this year, only 362 last year. So that's an increase in closings of 25%. And if I look at the average sales price, that's up about 3% in Goose Creek and Moncks Corner. If I go to Charleston County, which is where we have the bulk of our data, that's just where most properties are in our market. So far this year, we've had 1,350 closings. Last year, we had 1,150 closings. So that's an increase of almost 20%. And if you look at the average sales price, we're up about 4% in Charleston County if you're a single-family house. If you're a condo, it really hasn't been much change, quite frankly. We've seen the same number of closings, about the same number of listings. Pricing really hasn't changed all that much. Downtown Charleston, now these numbers are going to be kind of interesting because last year was such an amazing year for downtown Charleston. We've had basically the same number of closings. We don't really have any change in new listings for single-family homes, but the price is up about 4%. So again, downtown Charleston, and this is below the crosstown, okay? This is the historic peninsula of downtown Charleston. Still a fantastic market. Prices are rising, which is incredible given the amount of increase we had last year. But if you look at the upper peninsula of Charleston, so far this year, we've had 40 closings. Last year we had 34, so no big change there. But the median sales price is up 18%. The average sales price is up 7%. So I think what we're seeing here is investors that bought in the Upper Peninsula, they turned houses around. They've got some nice inventory out there. They're pushing that average sales price up. And then, of course, buyers that are no longer able to afford the peninsula of downtown Charleston are going above the crosstown because that's the way properties are kind of shifting in terms of renovated homes and affordable homes. So I think that's what's playing into that. If you look at James Island, so far this year, we have had 169 closings for single-family homes. That's a 30% increase from last year, and the average sales price is up 17%. If you're selling your house on James Island, expect about 95% of your asking price and expect to sell it in 73 days. Last year, it was taking 95 days to sell your house on James Island. On Johns Island, we've had 94 sales. That's more than double what we had this time last year. There's 188 properties that have been on the market so far. Last year it was only 140. So we have seen an increase in inventory, but closings have almost doubled. Average days on market for single-family houses right now on Johns Island is 40 days. That's incredible. That's I don't think many people would have expected that number. West Ashley, we've had an 8.3% increase in closings, and the average sales price is up almost 7%. North Charleston, we've had 259 closings compared to 176 last year. That's an increase of almost 50%, and the average sales price is up 11% in North Charleston. Now, in Upper Mount Pleasant and Lower Mount Pleasant, these numbers, they continue to rise. Upper Mount Pleasant has had about a 7% increase in the average sales price, but really no change in the closings. And Lower Mount Pleasant, no change in closings, but the average price is up 9%. If I look at the Isle of Palms, we've had 40 closings so far this year versus 31 last year. Not a big difference there, but the average sales price is up 10%. Sullivan's Island, not a lot of activity. We've only had 7 closings this year on Sullivan's Island versus 9 this time of the year last year. Now, switching over to Dorchester County, we've had 549 closings in Dorchester County, which is an increase of almost 40% from this same time last year, and the average sales price is up 6%. If I look at Somerville, we've had 369 closings, which is an increase of 45% or 43% versus this same time year last year. And we've had a 7.5% increase in the average sales price. If you look at the Dorchester Road corridor, we've had an increase in closings of 20%, and the average sales price is up 5%. And then the Hollywood, Ravenel, Megget area, there's not a ton of data out there. We've only had 13 closings this year. We actually had 26 this time last year. So a little bit slower out in Hollywood, Ravenel, and the Megget area. But just to recap, across the board, increases in pricing, decreases in inventory, increases in closing. If you're a seller, now is the time. Right now is the time to consider putting your house on the market. Interest rates are low. Buyers are out there looking. It's a good time to consider selling your house. So if that's something I can help you with, please go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how to navigate this market if you're a buyer. I'm going to give you some tips to use so that you can make the most out of your time when looking for new homes. Stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. And don't forget to call into the studio if you have a question, comment, or concern. The number here, 843-556-1250. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
The Big Talker WTMA.
You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, Charleston, and thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. If you just missed the last segment, I just went through just about every area of the Tri-County market here, and I told you what's going on with regard to the number of homes for sale, how many closings we've had, and the effect that's had on pricing. So if you're just tuning in and you want information on what's going on in your area, your neighborhood, you want to know how much your house is worth, or you're considering buying a house, please contact me through my website, listingsincharleston.com. And on that site, you can search the MLS. You can learn more about me. You can learn more about what I do to market my homes for sale. And kind of the undertone of this show is that we need listings. Our market needs listings. If you're thinking about selling your house, this is the time. This is the time to put your house on the market. So go to listingsincharleston.com. Click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee, which very simply states I'll sell your house in less than 2 months, or I'll sell it for half my commission. Not a bad deal. So listingsincharleston.com. Again, if you have questions here for me, you want to call into the studio, my number here, 843-556-1250. Would love to hear a story, an experience that you're having if you're in the market right now, or one that you've had, or just a general knowledge question. Again, the number here, 843-556-1250. So we just talked about what's going on in the market, and it's very glaringly obvious that we are in a seller's market here in the Charleston Tri-County area. We have 4.2 months worth of inventory. A normal balanced market is about 6 to 8 months worth of inventory. So we really have seen a shift from last year to right now where Tri-County area is a seller's market. It's very challenging if you're a buyer to navigate this market if you're not working with a seasoned buyer agent. So what I want to talk about now is navigating this market, things to avoid to make sure that you're not distracted when you're looking at houses or entering into the process of buying a house. And I want to offer some help as somebody that just does this a lot. Like I mentioned earlier, I think we did our 70th transaction Friday, and we did about 100 of them last year. So there's a lot of activity that we're seeing, and that's part of this program, is sharing my experiences with you as somebody that's in this market on a daily basis so that you can be an informed consumer. So I want to give you some tips here if you're a buyer. First and foremost, the biggest mistake that buyers make is they start searching for houses first. They go online, they look at homes, and they see some homes that they like, and then they call the listing agent for an appointment. What they should be doing, there's nothing wrong with looking at houses online. That's not what I'm saying. What you should do, however, is meet with some agents first, interview them, determine which buyer agent is right for you, because the buyer agent is the one that represents you and your best interests. If you call a listing agent, the listing agent already works for the seller. You guys need to understand that. And I, as somebody that takes and sells listings, I have buyer agents on my team that work with buyers. So I'm going to kind of contradict myself in a way because I represent sellers. But if you're a buyer and you call me a listing agent, it's going to be my job to get as much information out of you as possible to determine whether or not you're a pre-approved buyer and you're a ready, willing, and able buyer, and whether or not you're working with an agent or not. And then as soon as we get off the phone, I'm going to try and sell you that house, right? That's my job. That's what I've been hired to do. So if you're a buyer, you want to have an agent that represents you. You need to sit down with that agent, have a very detailed consultation on what you're looking for, what you expect out of the real estate agent that you hire in terms of communication, information, education, so on and so forth. And then you need to get pre-approved for a mortgage. Or if you're paying cash, then you need to have those funds liquid and available for the home that you find. So once you've done all of that, then you go out and you start looking at properties for sale. But if you're calling listing agents, those listing agents work for the sellers. They can't represent you in the same way that they represent the sellers. If you're asking a listing agent to be a dual agent, which means that they represent both the buyer and the seller, then that agent, by the very essence of dual agency, is limited in what they can do for you. So obviously, as a dual agent, I can't use information against either party. I can't tell you what the seller is willing to sell the house for, just like I can't tell the buyer or just like I can't tell the seller how much you're willing to pay for the house. I can't use information against either party. And I obviously can't be unethical, but if I represent a seller and some buyer calls me and they're interested in the property, again, I represent the seller. I'm going to deliver that information to the seller. I'm going to say, hey, I just had a good conversation with a buyer. Here's what's going on. They seem interested, blah, blah, blah. And that's my job. That's what sellers are hiring me to do. If you have a buyer agent that represents you, they're the one that should be calling the listing agent to ask questions. And it's going to be important for them to understand not to sacrifice any information that could be used against you, the buyer, in negotiations. Goes back to that whole old saying, be friendly, but don't be their friend, right? I don't want to share information with anybody that's going to hurt my client throughout the course of that transaction. So that's number one. Number two, and this is a bit of a sensitive subject, I understand, but it's just something that I've seen happen that really can distract a buyer, is taking a bunch of family members with you and kids and your mom and your dad and your uncle and your friend Steve to look at homes with you. The more people you bring when you're looking at a house, the more opinions you're going to have. And I don't know about you, but I've worked with plenty of people that whenever their mom says, well, think about this or think about this, sometimes it's very good advice, but sometimes it's just like, really? Did you just say that? So just make sure that if you're bringing somebody along with you, that you fully trust them and their opinion, and then it's not going to be some sort of weighed opinion for their own personal benefit or whatever the case might be. Just make sure that the people that you are bringing can give you an objective opinion on the house or on the area. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But number three is staying on your phone and being distracted while you're looking at houses. You know, I feel like millennials were born with a cell phone in their hands, and so it's incredibly important that they put the phone down, stay off Facebook, focus on what you're doing, and give this your full attention. We work with all these buyers that it just seems like they're distracted, And they can't be, quite honestly, because we're in a seller's market. If a good listing hits the market, you need to go and see it like immediately, because someone else is going to go and see it as well, and you might lose out on that deal. Another tip, don't eliminate the house that might need some work too fast. Okay, that's a good way for you to get equity in this market. For the sellers that have done everything to their house, it's in perfect condition, it's move-in ready, they're going to charge a slight premium for that. Whereas if a seller has neglected some maintenance-related items in their house, or they know that their hardwood flooring needs to be refinished, whatever the case might be, those are opportunities for you as the buyer to get a better deal on the house. So just something to think about. Don't weigh out or don't rule out homes that need some work. That's where you might find some good options for equity. And then the last thing that I would say is, if you don't trust the realtor that you're working with, you need to find a new realtor. If the realtor you're working with is not delivering the service that you need to make an informed decision, and you don't feel like they're representing you or your best interest, that should be a red flag. I'm not here to tell you to fire your agent. I'm here to tell you that you need to have very clear expectations with the agent that you're working with and what you expect out of them. Again, both in terms of market data, education, negotiability, communication, so on and so forth. And I'm going to give you a quick bonus tip before I take a break. View the best houses first. So many times, buyers or agents want to create a tour based on a location that's most convenient for them or you. And so if you're looking in James Island, Johns Island, West Ashley, you're going to see everything in West Ashley, then everything in James Island, and everything in Johns Island, and it might take you 2 or 3 days. My suggestion, as somebody that, again, represents sellers, and when I price a house correctly and it sells fast, we get a lot of activity immediately. So go and see your houses in terms of best to worst. Don't do it by location. That's my biggest tip, because if you know that there's a house that you're really interested in it, but you're waiting 2 days to get to it, it might be gone. So that's my final tip there. When I come back, we're going to continue this discussion about buying a house, but I want to talk a little bit about budgeting for that new purchase. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Again, call us in the studio, 556-1250. And don't forget to visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. I'll be right back.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. WTMA. Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, and thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show, where we talk about all things real estate here in the Low Country. Again, if you have questions, comments, concerns for me, and you want to call into the studio, the number here is 843-556-1250. And if you want to reach out to me personally to help you buy, sell, or invest in real estate, please go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, where you can learn more about what I do to help people do that, buy, sell, or invest. And you can click on the Sell Your Home tab to learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee, which essentially states that I will sell your house in 59 days or less, or I'll sell it for half my commission. So listingsincharleston.com is the website to go to for that. On the line, I think we have Bill Sandvig of Movement Mortgage. Bill, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Brian.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for letting me come on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you have some important news for us if somebody has student loans and a recent change that took place that might impact buyers' ability to buy a house. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So some FHA, or the Federal Housing Authority, just came out last week with an announcement that they're tightening the noose a little bit for first-time home buyers. It's going to become just a little bit harder to qualify. So what I wanted to do is urge if you're out there and you're on the fence about timing, about when you're going to make that first purchase, if you've got kids that are thinking about buying a house, I'll urge them to give Brian a call, start the conversation, because it's going to just become a little bit harder to qualify. A couple of highlights of the changes, and the first one is student loans. In the past, right now, we're able to, if you have student loans that are in deferment, which means those payments are not due yet, we can ignore those payments against your qualifying ratios. Well, on June 15th, that's going to change. And even if those payments aren't due for 3 or 4 years, we're going to have to assume a payment and count that against your qualifying ratios. So what that's going to do is, if you qualified for a $200,000 house, it might mean now you qualify for a $160,000 house. And so your buying power is going to be limited. A second big change is in income. A lot of first-time home buyers might have two people in the household. One is full-time, the other one's part-time. Well, in the past, if you had part-time work for 12 months, we could count that part-time salary. Now it's going to be 2 years. So you have to have 2 years of part-time income with no break. If you have a month off or you take a little vacation during the summer, that part-time work is not going to count anymore. So that's going to also impact people's ability to qualify.
So let me ask you just a specific question while I'm thinking about that. I thought of a specific example. Let's say that let's say that a wife is working and she goes on maternity leave. She had a full-time job before. She's going to go back to work. Does that break in time affect their ability to use that income to qualify for a mortgage?
Not for full-time employment.
What if so anything less than full-time, so part-time, that break is going to impact their ability to get a mortgage?
It would, because the rules and laws that maternity leave is only really afforded someone that has a full-time position. So if you're a part-time work, usually you're leaving that job during that time, and then you're kind of getting rehired. So if you're doing part-time work, you take a break, you got to have that part-time job back for 2 years before that income is going to count.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it's big changes. And there's more. There's other things that are tightening the noose, and what I want to encourage buyers, we're talking about in the last segment about what buyers need to do and advice you can give a buyer. What I would say is act now and start planning early. That's what I would add to that list. Is if you're thinking about buying a house, and even if you're a year off, reach out to an agent now, reach out to a local lender now, because the rules change, and the more information you have now, the better. And, it's just...
Yeah, and that's really the point, is just being armed with information so that you can make an informed decision.
Without question.
I want to ask you something, because I had a few things that I was going to read off in terms of tips for preparing to buy a house, whether it's your first house or your 20th house. Is there any harm in having somebody contact you to have you pull their credit?
No. The short answer is no. And that is a very common question. The impact of having your credit pulled for a mortgage check or a pre-qualification, it might be 1 point on your FICO score, and it bounces back very quickly. So the result of getting the information and the impact of getting the information and planning ahead far outweighs the 1 or 2 points that your FICO is hit for having your credit pulled.
Sorry to interrupt. What percentage of people that you work with have something on their credit report that they didn't know about?
At least 1 out of 3.
Wow.
I would say 1 out of 3. And the most common one would be a medical bill that they never even got told about, and their insurance should have covered it. And the medical bill shows up and it's $80, and their credit score is 50 points lower because of it. And that's something that can be cleaned up, but it's a great example of, if you wait till the last minute, that there might not be time for you to clean it up, because you're trying to buy in the next 30 days and you have no time. And
right.
You're not going to get it cleaned up and taken care of that quickly, because the medical companies are going to be too slow about it. So.
Well, Bill, I really appreciate your information. You're a great partner on my real estate team, and we always appreciate you calling in and sharing your insight and experience on this program. How can people reach out to you if they want to talk about getting pre-qualified or just the mortgage process in general?
Sure. They can reach out to me, 843-300-7870, my cell phone, or www.lowcountrylending.com.
Very good. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thanks, Brian.
All right. Well, that pretty much does it for us here at the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. We really appreciate you tuning in. If you have questions, it doesn't matter if you're looking now or 5 years from now. I want to be a resource to you. So the best way to contact me is to go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, or feel free to call my cell phone personally. My number is 843-345-1037. 1273. Again, remember to go to that website, listingsincharleston.com, especially if you want to buy your house. We need inventory in our market, and we'd love to help you through that transition. Listingsincharleston.com for my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning from 8 till 9. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.